Hey guys, it's Gus,
And Carlos from Hardware Unplugged.
and today we'll be checking out the Odin Eclipse mousepad. But before we get started, please make sure to hit that like button to show support. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. With that being said,
Let's begin.
Horizon.
Behind you, Carlos.
Come on, I trade it. 2v2. Go!
Oh,
Oh, I hit it for 100 something good shit. Yeah. I'm burning hard. Crack, burning again. Shit. Hit it for 100 something. 22 good shit. Alright, so we pick up the Odin Eclipse mousepad, and I believe this is their third mousepad. They have the Odin Zero Gravity, the Infinity, and well, this one, the Eclipse, right?
Yeah.
So the Eclipse, now I heard this is supposed to be, I think, an Artisan Zero replacement.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was, I'm pretty sure it was Odin that said that, right?
Yeah.
Or people have been saying that it's a zero replacement now.
Somebody said it.
Yeah.
Somebody out there wilding on
Yeah,
this.
so we got curious and we picked it up, right? Because there hasn't been really a zero replacement, right? There's been a bunch of Hien replacements, but
yes,
hasn't been
a
zero
lot of
alternative,
right?
right?
Which is getting kind of boring, you know what I mean, honestly. But
Yeah, so well, we picked it up, right? So before we get into our experience, let's talk about the specs of the mousepad. So what are the dimensions of the mousepad?
so the mousepad measures at 490 millimeters by 420 millimeters and it's 3 millimeters thick.
Now the size of the mousepad, now when it comes to a square size, it was pretty good, right? It wasn't too small or anything like that. It was perfect for our gaming. We never ran out of space or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Now they do offer a desk pad size, so in case you do want a desk pad size with this mouse pad, well, there you go. They offer it too for $50. This mouse pad, the square size, was $30.
Yeah.
So the stitching in this mouse pad, the mouse pad, I think is one of the biggest complaints that I have. Now the stitching, by the looks of it, it looks a little weird because in some places it's like thicker, and in other places it's a little thinner.
Yeah.
Like the stitching, right? Now it's not fraying or anything. The whole time we used it, it didn't fray at all. But it just looks funny. It looks weird. It's a kind of an eyesore, right? But that's just me, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Base is actually pretty grippy. And it laid flat out of the box, so that's pretty good.
I know a lot of you guys are gonna like that.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the experience, right? The experience with the mouse pad. So this mouse pad, I compare it with the Zero. And when it comes to performance-wise, I feel like it feels like a Zero, right? Because flick shots and everything, I mean, it kind of feels like that with the exception with the Zero. It being like slightly faster. I think you agree on that, right?
Yes.
The Zero feels slightly faster. It has like, it's easier to move your mouse pad around than the Odin Eclipse. The Zero is a little easier to move around than the Eclipse, but ever so little. But yeah, that's that little difference. Now this mouse pad, now did it get affected by the temperature?
Yes, it did. So I was using the mousepad for 2 weeks straight, honestly, and well, you know, my time, I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
How do you call it? But I noticed that when it got really hot, really hot, so texture-wise, whenever you feel it with your fingers and your forearm, you know, how do you call it? Whenever it's in a cool environment, it feels very clothy like, you know. It feels good, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have felt like new cloth like mouse pads. It genuinely feels like pretty good. But when it got really hot, I noticed that it felt really grainy, fuzzy. The only way that I could describe it is it felt really dirty, if that makes sense. Again, grainy and fuzzy. That's how I could, you know, like describe it, right? But that was pretty much it. So that was with me feeling it with like my fingers, you know, and you know what I mean, and with like my mouth and with my mouth with my forearm.
So this mouse pad does get affected by the temperature, but it doesn't affect performance, does it?
No, it doesn't affect performance at all.
Yeah. So when it comes to feel wise, it does get affected by the temperature. So it'll feel grainy.
It feels different. Whenever it's really hot, it feels fuzzy, dirty, really grainy. Whenever it's cold, it feels nice and cloth. Like, I don't know. Like, that's how I could describe it.
But it performs the same.
Yes, with your mouse gates and everything. Yeah.
In both environments, it performs the same.
Yes, it does perform the same. Which is kind of weird because usually whenever a mouse pad does change, right? How do you call it? You know, it would also change. You know what I mean? Like in speed.
It'll slow down.
Yeah,
I
you know,
feel
it'll slow down
muddy.
more.
And they get
you
really
know,
inconsistent,
yeah.
right?
Yes, but this one
Consistent. It just felt different.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, same. So I was playing with the mouse pad too, and I actually like it. I actually like it quite a bit. Now I was playing with this mouse pad, and I didn't notice it get affected by temperature, and I had thought they had slowed down because it feels different, right? But I actually ended up noticing that the performance didn't really change whether it was cold or it was hot. It just felt different, but I was playing the same.
Yep.
So yeah, that's something to take into consideration. Now that may throw you off the way it feels, right? But for us, like, dude, when it comes to playing performance, it felt the same. Right?
It did. Yeah, it did feel the same. Honestly.
Yeah. So this mouse pad. So I think we had two different opinions when we say that it was like it felt like a 0 or it was like a 0, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I personally don't think it doesn't really like. It's not gonna replace a 0, honestly. And it doesn't, to me, in my opinion, it doesn't even feel nothing like a 0. But I think me and you agreed on that when it comes to like performance.
Yes.
It's about as close as you're gonna get to getting a 0.
2-0. Yes.
Right. But I would say this mouse pad, to me personally, it compares more to a QCK Edge, or to a QCK mouse pad. I feel like this is basically like a QCK Pro, because we all know QCKs are really good for like the first week. After that, they feel, you know, like a used shirt. You know what I mean? You know, like a 2-year-old freaking used shirt. You know, it doesn't feel good after like a week of use. But with this one, you know, for the most part,
stay consistent.
The performance wise was just there on.
It was
you know?
consistent. Yeah.
So I will give it that. But to say that, I don't know. In my opinion, to say that it's like an Artisan 0. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that just sounds wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in my opinion, I was saying it was kind of like Artisan 0 because the performance is basically on par with it. The only difference that I think me and you can agree in is that the 0 is a little bit easier to move around, right?
It is. It
feels faster, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to performance, it's basically there. Another thing, the 0 is squishier than the Eclipse. The Eclipse is more firm.
Yeah.
And even the texture, right? By looking at the fabric closely, like it kind of looks the same.
I personally don't think it doesn't look the same at all, honestly.
I think they look the same, and even if you shine your light, if you shine the flashlight, you see little sparkles, like kind of like the freaking the 0. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, in my opinion, I feel like out of all the MOSFETs we've tried, this has to be the closest one. This has to be the closest one thing to a 0, because you know how people have said this feel like a 0, this feel like I'm sorry, yeah, this feel like a 0, this feel like a 0, this and that, blah blah. Not even the X10 I feel like the 0. I feel like this one is as close thing you're gonna get to a 0 for the money, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
I don't know, man. Like, I think, like, you guys let us know who you think
who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah, who's right, who's wrong, honestly. I you know, I guess I could kind of see how people think that, honestly, but like, I don't know, my opinion, it's just really close to like something like a QCK, honestly.
Yes. I think I've mentioned this before. Oh, but what is the 0 supposed to be?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you tell me it's supposed to be something like a
QCK replacement, a longer lasting QCK.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Like, in my opinion, the only mouse pads you guys should even think about getting when it comes to Odin, definitely not the 0 gravity. That thing's like generic as hell, honestly, dude. It's not a bad pad for the price. Yeah. I just think it's too generic, you know. Like, you could probably get a pad that feels similar to that for a lot
Focus
cheaper,
3.
You know.
Focus 3.
Focus 3. And then the Focus 3 came out, so it's like, you know. Yeah. But the ones that you should be looking at when it comes to Odin, the only 2 mouse pads, you know, as of right now, is the Infinity for sure, and now we have the Eclipse for sure. Yeah. So this mouse pad was pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Links to everything's gonna be down below. This is Gus
and Carlos from Hardware Unplugged,
and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.